あるかもしれない。
Now, you read the title of the video, Duo Free-For-All, with JoJo villains and JoJo heroes of their respective parts going all out in one giant fight, trying to see who the best duo is. Now, I will say this is not my original idea. I did find it on Reddit thanks to Low Bookkeeper, who originally came up with the idea, but I thought I would answer it. But since it's so complex and so jarring, I thought I'd invite a couple friends over. I have Xforts and Caleb IA on my channel today to discuss this free-for-all, as it's gonna get pretty complicated, and me being the indecisive person I am, need more opinions. So, boys, how you feeling?
What's up, boys? First time on the channel, Metis. Thanks for having me. It's long overdue.
Yes, yes. Caleb?
I've been on this channel. JoJo Blast. I don't know what to do. But hi, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Caleb. This is our first time talking.
Yeah,
This is the first time I met both you guys.
JoJo Villain Duo Free-For-All, like I said in the intro, we're gonna be kind of doing it a bit different. We already recorded this, but due to shenanigans, we lost the audio. So we're doing this again, but we're doing this a bit different from the last time. We did endgame powers the first time, and it was a very interesting discussion, but a lot of the time, all of us were kind of saying, but if they didn't have their endgame power, it led into a completely different discussion and a lot more interesting conversation. So with that being said, we will do kind of like right before getting their endgame powers. So you're basically looking at just like regular Pillarman cars, just regular Jono, acts 1 through 3 Johnny, Valentine without Love Train, so on and so forth. We'll talk about the characters when they come up. So it's just kind of like that. It's way cooler, trust me. And we will talk about endgame powers at the end. We definitely have an answer to that. We were talking about it for an hour yesterday and it was really cool, but of course we'll just do it right now. So with that being said, we'll go in order like last time. Part 1, how we feeling, boys? Because I think even in a mid-ball power-up, both Jonathan and Dio are just like not very interesting. They have, you know, vampiric powers on Hamon, but I don't really got anything really, you know, constructive and positive to say.
Well, I definitely do, because when we did like the max level, when you're getting into Tusk Act 4 and Gold Experience Requiem, it's like, okay, we can't, Jonathan stood out of the battle here. Jonathan's dead in 4 seconds. Dio might do something with vampiric powers, but he's not getting past like Made in Heaven and all that shit. But like when you take away all of that, part 1 Dio, even part 1 Jonathan, like they stay in the fight quite a bit longer, especially Dio with like the vampiric powers. So like, I mean, just looking at all the matchups right now, I want to say Dio definitely, a lot of these guys just lose to time stop, but part 1 Dio has that advantage in time stop, although he'd be fighting himself. So, but then when you put 2 Dios up against each other, like their egos always get the best of them. So, I mean, Dio kind of loses to Dio too. So like Phantom Blood Dio, not to get too into it now, as we got like more to go over, but I think he has like a pretty good chance to make it to like top 2 maybe.
Yeah, he's interesting. He's definitely pretty smart. And of course, there are some of these characters I will explain later that could potentially screw up, because not even thinking about it, you know, this could be wild to say. Maybe part 1 Dio could like kill Joseph and Kira, because even Kira now, technically speaking, doesn't have like Bites of Dust or anything, or even Stray Cat, at least in this discussion. So it's like, you know, Dio could probably solo part 4 if you really want to be generous. Caleb, anything on your boat?
I honestly think when it comes down to certain characters whose whole thing is just now strength, like Diavolo without the GR support, for example, and just let's say if Jotaro and Dio were to run the ones specifically, something like punching a hole through Dio's chest legitimately doesn't do anything, you know, like let's say that you do get it off. He's come back from having his body split in half by a sword already, and he was able to help mitigate that by freezing, the Hamon didn't affect him, etc, etc. So normal forces, he's essentially like he's not a Pillarman like at all, but he's like the closest thing we have to that in terms of a vampire. Sometimes Kira has to like legitimately have Killer Queen fight, like throw the hands first, because he doesn't get the opportunity to just place his hand on someone when they're actually fighting him and blow them up. So something like if Dio was to fight Josuke or Kira in specific, and let's say they have punched him really bad, just making contact like one time with him, he can freeze up at least like a large portion of their body, and they really
example Dyer, yes,
yeah, they don't really have anything to do against that either. Like Josuke,
I'd also say Jolene too.
You said, huh?
Jolene too.
No, exactly. Like specifically here, we know that Giorno and Josuke can play support for their people, that's his what is it? And Johnny can like, you know, like redirect certain damages and
Bullets.
stuff like that. And Toru's Toru, all that. But when you have something like the actually hurting the support / having them separate, because like Jonathan by himself can do really well with just taking hits and not dying for the most part. Like I think certain things, like if he was to get hit by Crazy Diamond Restoration,
I think he dies to like everyone pretty quick.
no, yeah, that's the issue. Like certain things, like okay, Crazy Diamond Restoration, he's gonna like, oh man, I warped your brain, you're cooked. Or like
he got
Jotaro,
the pluck sword too. We got to take that into account.
He also does. As long as Jonathan can just exist for a little bit, Dio can guaranteed survive a hit from certain people here and then do damage. The only person where I know are like guaranteed, like it's just not really gonna work out for him anyways. Like there's also specifically cars. Even if he was to put his hands on cars, it's like, well, why would you put your hands on him? Your hands are now sinking into his skin.
And part 3 Dio, Hamon's kind of OP in time stop. Like the only thing he can do is like throw knives or road roller. Like
yeah,
he cannot touch you.
Oh yeah, and that's like with the idea, like he has the knives on him. Like, you know, he crashed into that freaking the China shop and he got like the knives and stuff there. I think so. I think that was the idea. Pucci specifically, Pucci kept his knives on him. That was a whole different thing. But like, yeah, I think if Jonathan, because Jonathan is gonna be his body's gonna be filled like just with Hama like all around him continuously, so he actually can't put his hands on him, and he can't. I'm gonna say I'm on the boat of like Dio in part 3 can't Space Ripper Stingy Eyes because he just didn't bother to do it, and I don't know really. I think he's above it, but I'm just gonna say that he can't do it. So something like Jonathan in Time Stop, for example, it would have to be finagling it mainly, like, oh, maybe like a portion of the ground I just hucked it as hard as I can and stuff like that. But he can exist for a while, bit, like a good bit before completely dying, at least.
But I think we can agree that they're not winning for sure.
They're definitely not winning. No.
All right, part 2 then. Joseph and cars now.
Yes. So I would say this, even similar to doing endgame power, these two are still surviving even here. I think out of all of them, they were nerfed the least. Cars is still a genius. He's still a pillarman, and Joseph is still Joseph. He didn't really gain any massive power.
Yeah, nothing changed with him.
They're literally fine. They cream part 1 easily if they were to fight them. It's just like game over. Jonathan doesn't have the hormone that's required to defeat Cars, and well, Dio's Dio, a vampire. Cars is eating him, so like there's not a lot of critical intelligence that's needed there. Moving on forward, that's a bit different, I will say. For the most part, I see them probably taking out probably part 4. 3 will probably end up being extremely difficult. Maybe 5, maybe 7, definitely not 8. That one just gets funky. So they'll survive for very long, just like our original video. So yeah, I feel pretty confident with that. What about you two?
Young Joseph could just trick his way out of like any situation. Like even put him up against Toru. Like in raw power, yeah, obviously he loses. He's just like a hormone user. But like, you know, in terms of writing, there could be a way where he wins that. So like even with Time Stop, I could totally see young Joseph, like again with the Jonathan, filling his body with hormone, using so many tricks to maybe think like Jotaro did with the magnet in his sleeve. Like Joseph could do something so similar to that and even better to make Dio like a little bit on edge, maybe get worried about him and just like outsmart him in the end. And plus that's not even considering he has Cars right next to him. Like people might underestimate the Pillarmen, but like watching JoJo, when you're introduced to the Pillarmen, I feel like that's the first time where I was genuinely like scared of a villain, to where it's like, yeah, okay, yeah, these
like,
guys
how are they supposed to
the gap them in power is like the largest it's ever been in the series. So you put these two together, I mean, like they probably don't get past Wonder of You,
but they get pretty far. But they get pretty far, yeah. I'd argue in like mid-balling them right before like entering like endgame power, so just removing ultimate Cars. This might be controversial. They're like second place, third place in this.
I say they're like third. I don't think they get past Valentine. No way. Valentine can just like he can obliterate so easily.
Probably. I feel bad for Johnny. Paraplegic. It's just like Joseph fights him. It's like, what are you doing? You're gonna get up? This kind of feels bad.
Yeah, I mean, no matter what situation, like when you have Valentine in there, he just always has the possibility to going by the logic that we're all in this same universe together, and Valentine has access to another Cars and another Joseph.
Yeah, exactly. exactly.
He just
the
has
merging
that in his
effect.
back pocket. Yeah, where it's just
always
like
that
on
one's
the table.
deadly.
It's literally always
obliterate.
One-shotting. It's
Which
that
honestly
seven's
isn't
wild.
that much different from Killer Queen power level, where as long as Kira's in range, he has that potential to turn someone into a bomb. Valentine sort of has that same effect with the duplicates.
But I will argue, because I am a Kira hater, apparently, says the last video that we recorded.
I think we still have, like, it's kind of crazy just thinking about it. I think we legitimately still have 2 over 3 still. Like, it's still, we haven't changed much. In addition to that too, 3 doesn't have, like, I'm on the boat, like, where you can't destroy a Pillarman really without the requirements that we've given them so far. Like, they told you, like, yo, you got the sun or Hamon. That's all I've given you so far. Like, even if you've removed them, like, oh, I've pulverized your head, even then they're like, oh, okay, well, I moved it, you know, I moved my brain, it's somewhere else in my body. You're just like, even if you chop off a head, they're like, oh, okay, well, I'm just gonna pick it back up and stick it back on my body and like fuse it together. Chop off an arm, I'll take yours and put mine on, and like that.
Yeah,
they still
Loki
have
put
so much.
Santana on this list and he'll take out most of these people.
No, exactly, like it's
it's wild.
ridiculous.
But with
Cars is
part,
still insane.
I think Caleb mentioned part 3 over part 2. And I would agree with that too, because although I said that Joseph would most likely be able to defeat Time Stop Dio, even though like old Joseph wouldn't, but young Joseph is like an entirely different beast. I feel like young Joseph loses to Jotaro because Dio can be exploited by like ego and just like that Dio-ness of himself, but like Jotaro, I feel like just punches Joseph.
Jotaro's very
Just
straightforward.
destroys him.
That's why we have Cars. And Cars is able to back him up, and you can't really.
Cars is a
we can't
wall,
really
dude.
pulverize him to death. Like we haven't done that with a Pillarman. Like that's not really how they go out, you know.
Yeah. The only way I realistically see like maybe part 3 beating Cars just by himself is, we know it's kind of weird, and this is me wild to say because my comment section reacted such a crazy way. The Pillarmen can't regenerate like vampires, but their durability is so insane that they can just survive as brains. It would take Dio and Jotaro an extremely long time to kill Cars.
Yeah.
It would be astronomical. So they could do it, but it's gonna take a lot of damn effort. Like Cars is a monster on this list.
Dude, I think they could do
he's a
it.
wall.
You get Jotaro on one side, Dio on the other, and they just stand barrage. They could just like pulverize him out of existence. Like give him 30 seconds and he'll just be deleted.
Still, 30 seconds is still a long time in a fight like this. A free-for-all between everybody, it would be wild.
Plus, Cars can't see stands.
Cars definitely
yeah, that's
can't.
true.
He also lost his freaking air antenna, so he can't just, like catch the movement either, like the air movement.
Yeah, still a wall, but not as great as a wall as he was before. We'll change at the end of the video, by the way, when we bring in Ultimate Cars. But I think with all this talk with part 3, how are the boys doing? Originally, in the previous recording, I straight up said that like, I can't exactly remember the numbers I was using, but it was like 14 and 17 seconds of time stop is still insane. But even like depowering them and just basically removing Jotaro's ability to stop time, they're still a threat. They still have like 9 seconds of stopping time thanks to Dio, and you know, Star Platinum is still Star Platinum, so it's a problem for everybody. They are still bullies even in this recording session. So it's just like 1, 2, 4, potentially 5 starts getting questionable around 6, 7's interesting, and 8's 8.
No, legit, like a punch to the dome takes out, like, okay, we can run this down, like who and who we can't. So not gonna punch Jonathan, like not gonna punch Joseph. Let's move that over. Punches a hole through Josuke and Kira, punches a hole through Diavolo and Giorno, punches a hole through Pucci and Jolene. If he's able to get to Johnny, that's like, we have
You
to worry
couldn't just
about
do
Act
that
3.
to Diavolo though, because Diavolo would see.
He could see it. Well,
any
yeah.
attack that would happen to Diavolo, he can literally see the future, so he could just choose for that not to happen. So Diavolo's
Diavolo's
not a character where you can just be like, yeah, Diavolo dies, because it's like
I think, well, I guess it's like his perception of stopped time, because it doesn't, like, I remember Medi had like a whole video about this. It was really funny. It's like essentially it's either he just doesn't see it or he sees all of it at once because it's stopped time and not like regular.
I mean, even if he doesn't see stop time, he would see that he gets obliterated in a
so it's
second.
at least
So
he's
he'd
like
be able to
moving
be
out of the way.
Yeah, he'd be like,
I
okay,
think,
let me just
he
choose for that not to happen.
I feel like he can. I feel okay, but essentially the idea is like, okay, let's say he doesn't, but the idea is like, if he was to punch them, he's dead. Like we have certain people that just don't regenerate or do anything like that.
Yeah, because Epitaph kind of like hard counter Dio, because Epitaph sees way further into the future than Dio's 9 seconds or 12, whatever his max was. And Epitaph specifically shows when something bad is going to happen to Diavolo. So like it literally like knows the future. That's exactly what it does. So it's like, I mean, Diavolo, versus time stop, I feel like he just has a massive advantage there.
In terms of ability, yes, but then in terms of like stats, if we're getting hyper nerdy here, it's like it's definitely 2 part 3, but Diavolo will be annoying to fight. I will argue for Poochie. Seamoon is a problem. Funny Valentine and Johnny are still a problem for part 3 because, you know, infinite lives and then the bullet everywhere and anywhere if Johnny wants it to be, because he can move around during it. And part 8 is still a threat because of, you know, of just Wonder View by himself. Plunger's still cool, but you know, Toru, at least in this version of the tier list being all kind of mid-balled, you know, he's hard carrying Gappy for them. But part 3 is definitely still being bullies this time around in this version of the list. So yeah, they're just monsters. So I think we should move on to 4 because it's pretty obvious with 3.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, with 4, I feel like they're just not a serious duo in that sense. Like Josuke's just, if I'm picturing this scenario, this free-for-all, Josuke is like probably the most naive on this list. Like he would just he would be scared. He'd be like, what the hell is happening? And Crazy Diamond, for like how powerful it is, it just doesn't have any utility to make a meaningful difference against King Crimson or the world or Wonder of You or anything like that.
Yeah. Or cars.
He could work with someone to make something happen, but he cannot overcome those.
He can keep healing Kira, you know, if he just like, yo, just go do stuff.
Spam bomb.
Actually, in specific, in this, what this duo has is at least like, I can recall sheer heart attack if it comes to us. Like, let's say Josuke is getting all flustered and his temperature gets too hot. But in the case of everybody else, he can let sheer heart attack like roam and it will just go crazy, just absolutely crazy on a lot of the people here.
The best hope that Josuke has is to hit Toru, and maybe Toru, since he's like a rock human, is like somewhat in the inanimate object tier, and he like reverts him back to like a baby. It like reverses his like metamorphosis.
That would be hilarious.
Because I don't think Josuke can't like de-age or like age people, but like if a rock human's not human, if he just does something there, he could pop off.
He's technically a rock. I now revert you. That would be funny, but like, other than, don't get me wrong, Josuke is strong. He is comparable to Jotaro, at least in terms of stats, but Restoration can like make a wall for the most part and maybe heal Kira, but like nothing else is really working. He can fuse somebody to like a wall or the ground or something, but like for the most part, everybody is still around his level, if not higher. So he's like, he's not really doing anything. And Kira has sheer heart attack here and, you know, the bomb stuff, but like I've always said in different videos and kind of saying it throughout this video, Kira just doesn't have like the fighting capabilities like everybody else. So they're just like, they're not like a good team combo. Like Josuke on anybody else's team would be like really good, but like for them, like no, it's just Kira's just a bad partner for him.
He also works better in like environmental stuff, and with this like duo free for all, usually like versus is just like, you know, this imaginary room where there's only the ground and that's it. Like you don't really have stuff. And every time we see Josuke, he shines about making like the best of like his environment and stuff. But we've essentially, by having him at like a net like neutral place, he has nothing to work off from. And like, and we basically just, and we seem like, he made a barrier with the ground, but it's just like, oh yeah, this little barrier got blown up by a Killer Queen bubble. And it's like, that's not like it's a bad thing, but it's like if Jotaro was to punch it, he's gonna punch right through it. Like it's not.
And then you're right behind the wall. So it's like part 4, even look, I'll say it now. I'll say
sheer heart attack.
They're not going very far.
Sheer heart attack on the table for me. That's my thing. I want it is, as long as they have to like, you know, like play like the low game, pretend to whistle a little bit, just let it do what it do. Everyone's wondering who the hell stand is this, just pretend that it's not yours, be like, oh my god, whose stand is this, oh no. It just chases whoever's the hottest blooded, which would probably be over here.
Probably like nerfed. It'd probably just run in circles because there's too many people.
There is a lot of people. It has to just blow up someone, but it's like there's a lot of people here that can't. Yeah, Jotaro can't regen. Giorno can always be there for Diavolo and for himself. It can go for the Hamon users free. Dio's cold as hell, won't go for him at all probably.
I don't Cars would probably end up being like at least cold-blooded.
He's probably cold-blooded realistically.
Yeah. So the bomb is really affecting some of the teams, but not all of them.
Toru's a rock. It's not gonna go for him, and it better not go for him, you know, because you don't want it to just be all like sheer heart attack goes in his direction and then turns around and just jolts at Kira, and it's just like, wait, what the heck? It's like, hey, I'm using.
You're the hottest one.
It's like, I'm using your power against you, buddy. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So part 4 sadly doesn't probably go anywhere. Even if we like give them like bites the dust, it probably won't do anything even in the end game. Kind of discussed it last time. So I guess guess with that being said, we move on to part 5. This time it's massively different because in the previous recording session, Giorno was a problem for like everybody and anybody, and Diavolo was just kind of there. But now it's kind of like swapped on.
Yeah, Diavolo's kind of carrying a little bit like this.
Yeah, Diavolo OP.
He really is, and Giorno still, even in this scenario, still has healing way better than Josuke's too, with his other abilities, life exhaustion and stuff. So I think if I were to realistically think about it, Jonathan and Dio probably, Joseph and Cars difficult, maybe potentially could do it. It just depends on how you want to say it. Dio and Jotaro are a problem. They probably won't be able to beat them. Joseph and Kira, they'll probably end up beating. Pucci and Jolene, depends on how you see that one. That one's an interesting fight. I don't know how that one would go. Johnny and Valentine, I'd actually say they'd have favor in that one. And then Gappy Toru, of course. Toru, don't need to really explain it.
Yeah.
So how are you guys feeling on that one? I think this team even now is still a threat, but in a different sense because now it's Diavolo carrying and not Giorno.
Diavolo, when time skipping, can he do anything to like? I know he can't attack during it. Can he do something as simple as like
can, but he can't
moving
at the
someone?
Same time, it's weird.
Yeah.
If he can simply move someone, I think this changes up. Like, I think because that's what happened, right? Like with like Narancia in specific, like he made his attack after, but then no one noticed. Like Narancia was already like hung up and stuff.
Yeah, so it's like if he punched someone in time skip, it would just go away because that action happened in time skip. But if you put Narancia on the spikes, once time is unskipped, Narancia's still on the spikes.
See that? Okay, if that's the case, then something as simple as like Giorno, you know, go in there, do something against Cars. It didn't work. It's like, oh well, shit. Okay, well, let me figure it out. After we see the whole Hamon interactions and everything like that. Something as simple as putting Cars in front of Joseph, or more so moving. It's probably easier to move Joseph. Joseph probably weighs less. Like moving Joseph in front of Cars, like when he's about to strike someone else, and then he specifically strikes Cars and ruins his own teammate. Like that's like that's a pretty good
skip time while someone's attacking and move them directly in front of Toru.
Oh my god! Wait, yes.
Oh god, that combo would be nuts.
See, no, if you have Joseph and Diavolo, that would happen all the time. I promise. like just specific.
He can't spam time skip though.
No, it's just like at least like the fact like Joseph's like, hey, look, I know that we shouldn't be attacking that guy over there. Let's not do it. And then Diavolo's like, yeah, whatever. I don't really care. And it's just like, yeah, just keep on. Just like if you have the ability to put someone in front of that Toru guy.
Let's see what happens.
Go ahead. It's like, what? All right.
It would definitely be extremely interesting. I would also argue, because I'm thinking about it, and I guess shit, since we've already mentioned Medi once, he did end up making a video about how Giorno possibly could affect vampires with the whole life energy stuff. And thinking about it, note, this is all unscripted. I'm just thinking off the top of my dome. If he can make life energy, he should, in theory, if all this is happening and they're like, this is like kind of like a reasonable fight within the franchise and people are still able to learn and adapt and grow, seeing the Hamon users do their thing, Giorno could theoretically maybe replicate it, so he could maybe be useful in fighting Cars and Dio. Maybe.
I feel like Giorno might be affected by Hamon. He's got that like distant vampiric blood.
Maybe.
He's just like right now he's just rocking out like a Twilight type of guy, but up until he actually
meets kind of Dio's guy, a vampire. He's like, Dio gets hurt by Hamon. He has a kid, like, you know, same blood in a sense.
It might be interesting. There are some questions to that one.
Honestly,
but I think overall,
I'm gonna say that he can't do the Hamon stuff like purely because he won't have enough time to learn the inner workings of it as fast as possible. Because a lot of these guys are ready to go like as soon as the fight starts. You know?
Yeah. So I guess they're definitely a threat, but I don't. They might be contenders. We'll lay out the list. I don't think
Diavolo gets past part 7 because it's like, okay, you can skip time, you can attack Valentine, but like unless you one-shot Valentine, he wins because he can swap himself. He can
infinite lives.
Yeah, infinite lives. So for how good time, like time stop could keep you alive, but it couldn't defeat anyone really. A few people, but not like the time stop boys.
Yeah, definitely. If we're gonna probably end up making a list just for like the mid bowls of all this before the end game, I'd say they're like maybe 4th for me, maybe
like third around there. Yeah, they're in the upper end.
They're definitely upper end. So I guess we should probably move on. Simon, Pucci, and Jolene. I don't know how this team would function. I'm actually kind of lost. I don't know how well they would do. Like Simon can one shot. We know that because they reverse people inside out, and he would make the environment completely all fucking jank for sure. Everybody would be confused. part 1, definitely. 2, yes to Joseph. I don't know how cars would live a one-shot from Seamoon. I don't know how that would theoretically work. Maybe. Dio and Jotaro get very interesting with Seamoon Pucci. Josuke and Kira, washed. We already know what's going to happen with them. I'm sorry, boys. Diavolo and Giorno might be an interesting matchup against Pucci and Jolene. 7 is 7. They're funny. And then Toru just being Toru. I think they managed extremely well in this variation of this fight, unlike last time. Jolene would definitely probably play more, probably a bigger role here. I'm actually will give it to Girly, unlike the end game version of this that we recorded. I think Jolene would end up probably doing a lot more. What, you guys' opinions?
Well, like Jolene could defeat like Josuke or Joseph or probably even Giorno, maybe even Johnny, but like you just get to that wall once you get to the time stop people, the Diavolo, the Jotaro and Dio, the Gappy and everything.
Yeah.
So like the part 6 crew, I want to say they're on a similar level to Kira and Josuke, where they would be able to do something, but they're just not going to make it past that threshold. Because even with Seamoon, like, okay, Seamoon distorts gravity. We know if Dio time stops, that doesn't really affect him. He's sort of like airless in time stop. Yeah. So is he that much more powerful than Kira, who can also just kill someone just by touching them? Maybe not. He's just able to push people away.
I will see in the difference between those two. Pucci actually knows how to fight. Yeah. He's shown it a lot more. So he'd be more useful than Kira. I will say that for sure.
Pucci doesn't know time erasure, time skip, but since he knows of the, like, he knows Dio and like stopping time, I think he has more, essentially like more stake in the game, like more knowledge in the game than Diavolo would have for someone like him. And I think that's what's going to help, because at least in the case of Pucci Jolene, Pucci's at least able to like play like a facilitator where he can essentially guide like, hey, I'm gonna be going for this in this way specifically just so I can get like a singular shot off on this person or that person. Like one good Seamoon punch on like any of the Hamon guys, for example, they're just like, oh, I'm turning my body inside out. Oh my God, I'm dying. Like,
you know, Cars could just do that though. He'd be like, oh, I can turn my body inside out. Just
Cars is like, I already, that's what I
put a high.
The Hamon guys is specific, because the freaking, if you do that to Cars, you're just like, I was already doing this.
Dude, we'd be better if we gave like, okay, when we're talking about Seamoon, I'm like, yeah, Seamoon's kind of like, you know, it's powerful, but in this matchup, it's sort of.
If you want to do White Snake in specific,
if we gave him White Snake, he kind of clears. He clears.
White Snake changes the course of like a lot of these characters, Heike. I think because it's like,
if we like devolved him, he'd do better.
Yeah.
So okay, you know what? With that being said, fuck it. This video is already going to be long, and since we're already mid-balling everybody, let's mid-ball Pucci again and low-ball him into like White Snake, Pucci, and Jolene.
He beats Cars. He beats Diavolo. Beats JoJo and Dio.
If he gets close enough, you know,
I think he caps out at Toru with White Snake.
Probably, yeah.
Especially because he has like Jolene like long range. It's like essentially she has like longer range support, especially because of the strings and stuff.
Yeah, saves him in time stop. If he tries to get punched in time stop, it's like, oh, I made like a strain bulletproof vest underneath you. Kevlar, can't be touched. Kevlar. You have like the defense there.
It would probably like make a difference. Like, oh, I'm not dead, but my ribs are crushed.
No, this is okay.
Use that to take his freaking memory disc.
Remember when like Cars gave himself like full body armor?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, this is Jolene and Pucci. Pucci stays in human form. Jolene completely unravels, wraps her entire self around Pucci, and Pucci's now in like this cocoon that is like super durable from Jolene. So now no one can even like attack him really, and he can just go around stealing the stand discs or memory discs. I can't
believe Pucci's using Chug Jug Jolene. This is wild.
Yeah, that'd be high key. Like, no, if he manages this, because here's the thing, that's like one of the easiest ways you can go about nullifying Cars here. Just removing his ability to function altogether.
Yeah,
because Jolene's strain is like super durable. Like if Pucci was fully wrapped head to toe in that strain, like a normal punch from any of these people, maybe the pluck sword, maybe Jonathan comes up clutch here, but
so wiggles the sword in between the wires, stab,
or just cut through it.
Yeah. I think if that was the case, the only people that would be a threat would probably end up being probably Toru. Kira, yes. Kira, yes. Toru, yes. Maybe Dio and Jotaro if they're just mashing the A button on them. Just mash.
Yeah.
They don't know how to play a fighting game. They just mash square like Bardock and fighters. So yeah, they end up lasting pretty long. I think they're like about 4 or 5.
Gappy though, because if you consider any character where it's like, oh, if this character gets a buff in this way, Gappy can just plunder away. Where it's like, I removed the strength from your strain or something like that.
Oh yeah, like just like you have this string is like basically regular string now, and it's like you're gonna get hit.
Gets wonder reviewed right after.
It's a stand though. Like you can't like plunder a stand though. Maybe.
I feel like it's gonna be like an attribute of himself, right? Oh wait, no, I just thought about it. Yeah, wait, Jonathan won't be able to cut the string, right? It's a stand. It's like stand string, right? And no, even then he has white.
It's like an integrated stand, but it's a physical thing.
Yeah,
because she
Jolene is weird.
He does still have white snake though. For something like pluck, I think like he'll be able to like punch it out of the way, like just like yo, get this sword away from me.
Oh yeah, Poochie definitely outskills both Jonathan and Dio easily.
Jonathan got like literally like a 8, like maybe like a 3-meter range with the sword though. He can probably keep everyone away.
I just back up.
Yeah, literally.
I got a sword. Get away from me. You freaks of nature.
Jonathan Dio back to back. Space Ripper Stingy Eyes Pluck Sword.
Freaking lethal. Like what is it? Like range. Lethal weapon. Lethal weapon to recover. Just Dio and Jonathan swinging and blasting.
Yeah, I think overall, I think on all of our sides, Poochie and Jolene could be an extremely powerful threat with Sea Moon or White Snake. White Snake for sure. If we lowball him to like the lowest with his powers and abilities. So I think personally with them, if I'm keeping my list correctly in my mind, could be 3, could be 4. The low balls of this list is way more interesting than the high balls in my opinion. But I think we should move on to Johnny and Valentine. In the last recording, if I haven't mentioned it now, these two were the funny ones. They're still the funny ones because of Valentine, pun intended, entirely. Yeah, because it's just all like infinite lives, gun that can shoot from anywhere, and if you try to interact with the hole, you will literally be disintegrated. Gyro was literally glazing Johnny for it because he's like, yeah, the Pellies have never figured out what you've done here. Like you're incredible, Johnny. Like these two are they would be able to kill Jonathan Dio easily. Joseph and Cars probably, thanks to Valentine fixing that hole. Jotaro and Dio are eventually still a problem here, but you know the potential interaction between another Dio and Jotaro still could fuck up some shit. Joseph and Kira still can't do shit against them. Diavolo would end up being a problem definitely just because of shenanigans. Depending on how we see Poochie and Jolene, Sea Moon could be interesting. White Snake could be much more interesting. There could be some definite shenanigans there. But of course, when we get to part 8, Toru, again, the wall that is Wonder View would probably end up stopping them. But like, in my opinion, definitely in this variation of the list, you're looking at like a number 2 team. Again, just the hardcore campers just being assholes.
For this, up to 7 here, I'd say 7's number 1. I think they have the potential together to just like really take care of any situation they need to.
What do you think their win con is against like Wonder View? In this case, because we don't have the infinite rotation.
Getting a second Wonder View.
Well, that's why I said up to this point.
It's freaking ridiculous.
They don't really.
No, it's really BS, really. Like, you just have to get another Toru. It's just like this guy, but every time I go for him, I kind of die.
There is a way. So one of Johnny's like biggest strengths in Act 3 is that Act 3 is the infinite rotation. It's just like a nerfed form of it. It's like it's
in the hole.
It's like the infinite rotation that isn't infinite. Like in the moment when it's being used, it is the power of the infinite rotation. It just doesn't last forever. So like the same way that Josuke is able to defeat Toru by using the soap bubble that doesn't exist anywhere, Act 3 is that same logic. Like when Johnny goes into Act 3, they describe it in the same way. It's like this infinite spiral that exists outside of space and time. It's just this like null area. So Act 3 very well would be able to overcome Toru in some way if Toru maybe went into Act 3, into the hole, or was hit by it.
Okay.
I mean, just because it's that same power. It's the same thing as Go Beyond.
Toru, we would have to just say Toru would be a dumbass, be like, what's this hole do?
Toru
oh God, my hand's gone. He is.
He doesn't know what to do. He would just see all this. He'd be like, oh, I'm unstoppable. Nothing can hit me until something
What's
can
this
hit
hole
him.
do?
Yeah, his ability is doing a lot of legwork for his own personality and everything.
Plunder could definitely do some shenanigans. Like, you could just take away Johnny's nail bullets, and now it's just like, oh, now what are you gonna do?
I don't think he could.
Like,
what do you mean take away the nail bullets?
Because he'd just be like, I've taken away your fingernails. Because he's been able to take away like,
well, he could
water and stuff from the body.
If the fingernail is like a physical object, he could put the physical object inside the soap bubble. But like when it comes to actually plundering, like it has to be like a property. Like it could be like, oh, I take away, well, obviously I'm just going to give the examples in the part, like the friction in the eyesight. But I don't think he could just put a bubble and be like, I take away your hands or I take away your legs. Like, I don't think it works that way.
If it was like, if he makes it specific to where it's like, I've taken your Not what would it have to be like cell? Like it has to be like cellular
your
processes
cells.
or something like that within his fingers for it to like, because he'll be able to shoot, but once he uses up those shots, he's like, well, he has no more.
I've taken away the calcium in your body, so you can't regrow.
I'm not gonna lie, that's terrifying. Because here's the thing. If you specifically, here's the thing. JoJo, if he used it, if he was like a freaking doctor, would have gone completely different. Something like, I've gotten rid of all the calcium.
I didn't know there was a character called JoJolian.
No, I'm saying if it happened in JoJo. No.
Oh,
yeah. If
I thought you were talking about like a character.
No. If he was like, hey, I'm taking all the calcium away from your body, what calcium does for your body would crumble. Like it would just like just fall apart. Like because it has no more. There's no strength to any of your bones or anything. I think if he was that smart, he could have changed the course of that entire part a lot faster for a lot of the antagonists.
Plunder's a weird one where like he gave him this ability that could potentially do a lot of cool things, but since we didn't see him do that, we can't really theorize and be like, oh, what if he like took all he plundered the blood out of someone's body and just killed them instantly? Like, no, maybe, but I don't think
because he's done something as simple as like I've plundered your liquid,
water and friction.
He said I've plundered your sight, and then like the eyes were just gone there, and I'm like, bro, whoa. You
think
it's
of that like a sense though, like maybe
exactly like the sense of the actual sight itself, not
like he could steal like sound and touch. Like I think friction's within that same like category of senses.
That area. Yeah, no, I would agree on that one.
When it gets down to like physical things,
really abstract.
Because when it's a physical thing, he has to like literally put it inside the bubble.
Removing the liquid of your body, what would we categorize that?
I would. Well, the blood is made of mostly water too, so it.
No, I don't want to go that far. He cannot do that. No,
I think he could, but even taking away eyesight in this fight is still wild.
It's like for the sake of the story, you're all like, well, I don't want him to win. Like, I also think it's like a personality thing too.
Yeah,
because he contextually,
Gappy is violent, but he's not that violent.
Yeah, and it's like the people that he has faced, he wouldn't be able to get off that certain type of thing, especially the ones that we've seen so far. And it's like, oh, okay, I can't, especially like what is it, the first fight with like, what is it, Apex? No, the
Aphex Twins.
Yeah,
Aphex Twins. Yeah,
like it's like I'm not trying to. I don't even know how much blood these guys even got, so that probably wouldn't even come to thought. It's like how I'm gonna counter.
He swapped hands with them. He didn't even use. He didn't even.
No, yeah, exactly. I think it probably
he was like, I'm swapping.
I think he's definitely in this situation type of person. So something about whatever, I do think like he can plunder something about Johnny to affect his growth, but I don't think he's not gonna plunder his
he'd be better off just plundering his eyesight than plundering his fingernails.
Yeah,
probably. Yeah,
but can't like
Poochie can plunder eyesight too, by the way.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah, Whitesnake is busted. It's just weird, like fucking soft and wet. But yeah, there is some contention right here for like number 1 and 2. And since we're already talking about part 8 so hard, Wonder View, Calamity, it's bullshit.
We keep talking in the way that like Wonder View is like a wall or whatever, but I really don't think it is. I think it gets busted by like half this list.
I know. I'm a Wonder.
Defend it. Defend Wonder Review.
So just how it works is the fact that it's just bullshit, and it's just like raindrops become hyper lethal. Just off of that alone, it's just like, oh, so it would be able to destroy Dio's brain. It'd be able to catch Joseph off guard. It could just destroy, just using the rain analogy, destroy cars. It would just melt away his body, basically. Dio and Jotaro are a problem. We can get into the whole, would it affect them during time stop? Joseph and Kira, rain again, or like a pebble on the ground. You stepped on it wrong and it shatters your lower back. Diavolo eventually ends up becoming a problem. If Giorno isn't there to heal him, problem again. Poochie would have to get close, but that's the problem with fighting Wonder View. You couldn't get close, get pebbled. Jolene could maybe do something in this one, maybe? Question mark?
What would she do?
No, I don't know. Like just be a string on the ground, and then she steps on him. It's like, well, you're in my range, and now get stringed to death or something. I don't know.
The thing with Wonder View, I was gonna say,
there's the two things that we have to mainly worry about with the case of Wonder View is intent and like karmic retribution, essentially. Like in the case of let's say Diavolo, right?
Yeah.
So if he's like, I'm going to time skip, and then once I get into position, I'm going to kill him. But that intention itself is going to get him killed, / everything that he's ever done in terms of his character gets stacked on top of that, because something
JoJo all of a sudden hates Diavolo.
No,
Yo, take this to his face, bitch.
Like everything that he's ever done, because remember that whole thing, what is it, when Rai was talking with the prisoner, like the prisoner died instantly because of karma. He's all like, and then that's what Rai said. He's like, yeah, because this guy lived like a worse life to me, was a worse person. Wonder of You's calamity smoked him like instantly. Meanwhile, me, it's just like, it knows I shouldn't be doing this and bad things are happening, but I'm not dying for it. So certain things, like I think, like even in the case of like Valentine, for example, right? This is the key difference. When I'm like, Valentine can beat Toru, this is with the idea that Valentine's like, I'm gonna go get another Toru so I can inform myself. If he was to like, I'm gonna go get another Toru to kill this Toru, then him jumping over into like the next dimension could throw him into a wood chipper. Like just off, he was like, wait, what the fuck? Like just intent by itself can get you killed with that stand. At least that's what I've understood.
The intent isn't like extreme though. Like having the intent to might just activate the stand, or it might just trigger it. Like when
in context, remember he just talked about, he was talking to Rai and the ability instantly activated and the rain started showing up. So it is almost like you think you die, or at least the build up to being to death.
Yeah, but it like there's a scale where like the stronger the calamity is the closer you are to Toru and closer you are to like delivering that finishing blow. So with Diavolo, for example, just seeing maybe, well, Diavolo of course has epitaph, so he'd be able to see any future where he would potentially get hit by Wonder of You. But having the intention of being like say Dio, for example, being like, I'm gonna stop time and then go hit him. I don't think just the thought of that would do anything detrimental to Dio. Because like Meta said, like when they were in the tree and they were looking at it and they're like, oh, we can go to the university and meet him at his lecture, and then he shows up in the back and the rain starts. But like the only times like those massive calamities get delivered is when you're like right next to him. So that would happen to Diavolo if he skipped time, got in position, and then like the millisecond time unskipped and he went to hit Toru, like then he would probably die. Yeah, he's so close to
that's why I'm saying like certain people, like I think it's easier, let's say Jotaro had time stop and then it worked like specifically, it worked like time skip. Like he's like, oh, I can't punch you in it, but as soon as it stops, I'm gonna hit you for it. And Jotaro's idea of I'm gonna hit you for it and him not killing anybody in his history, like no karma whatsoever, makes it easier to like he's gonna survive the Wonder of You calamity. But like Dio, for example, if he were to do like the same thing, he's gonna have like he's gonna have a bigger calamity because he's like a worse person essentially.
Yeah,
that pebble in the ground is gonna really hurt his back.
The karmatic thing was strange. It was like introduced and established, but then it like wasn't consistent. So it's like, is that the case? Is that not? It's strange.
I don't think we've seen like as bad of people. I mean, well, granted, fucking what is it? Jobin was like as bad as it got in terms of like the last standing people, right?
I feel like that whole idea was set up for Jobin because the karmatic thing was set up, and then immediately after was Jobin's death. And Jobin wasn't even that big of a deal. It was like, oh, I have the branch now, so it's like he had a very little intent, and it like he had this massive calamity. So
yeah, a little bit of intent literally got history equals like he fucking just died.
Yeah.
And that's what, that's why, like, well, then we have, you know, I think it kind of makes sense that why like Rai and Gappy, nothing really happened with them because their history, well, Gappy is like, his history just started as soon as he like got out of the rocks. He's like a new person.
Oh, I didn't even realize that. That's a good point, Caleb.
Like he's like a new person altogether, but Rai in specific, I don't think Rai was pretty good, right? Like he wasn't, I didn't think it was like a bad guy. He was,
no, yeah, the whole karma thing could be thought of as like plot armor, where it's like if you're a good person and you have like righteous ambition, like Josuke, and like how many calamities did Josuke encounter? Like probably like 30, you know?
Yeah, he had no bad stuff on his like on his history for the most part. Like the people that he beat like needed to be beat for the most part. So that's why, like certain like the Joestars here probably will have a better time against Calamity instead of like the villains.
In my opinion though, like Wonder of You gets absolutely rolled to time stop and time skip and probably D4C. Like the whole idea, the only reason Wonder of You is considered so powerful is the context of the part it's in. It's because everyone he's fighting is so weak and they don't have these like crazy powers. And the whole idea of it is that like the only reason Wonder Review even works is because it's based on this like really firm established balance within the universe and this logic where, you know, there's good and bad energy and it just extorts that bad energy. So if you put Jotaro in there or Dio, either anyone with time skip, like you based on the way I understand it, you would not be affected by Wonder Review and time stop. Because if Soft and Wet Go Beyond is this power that exists outside of logic and outside the reality of the world and is easily able to overcome calamity, then that same rule applies to time stop. Time stop exists outside of the logic. You're not bound by time. You're not even bound by like physics. Like you're in your own world, which is similar to the idea that Go Beyond exists outside of the world. And same with time skip. Time skip even better because the whole calamity thing is based on fate, and Diavolo's thing is that he's literally changing his fated path. So if Diavolo was able to like Narancia Toru in the time skip, I don't think Wonder Review could like have any effect on that, because whole Wonder Review is like, I'm putting you on this fated path to encounter this calamity. This plane door is falling from the sky and it's fated to crash into you. It's all based on that like predetermined outcome. And Diavolo is like a hard counter to that, where he's like, whatever path you've put me on, my ability is just to deny that reality, to just go around it.
I can give it to Dio and Jotaro. For Diavolo's case, I'm like, I think, you know, like that whole like 1 millisecond before, at least like, I don't.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You would have to Narancia him. You would have to put him somewhere dangerous in the time skip.
Essentially, like near someone else. But then even then, because we're not like, this is like this blank room, for example, and the best thing he can do is put him near other people, and even then them trying to go for like them accidentally, because that's what will be the thing, like even if it's like a accidental pursuit, the fact that it's like, oh wait, you're attacking me, and it'll flip out and then hit someone else instead of him. At least that's why I'm like, I'm definitely pro time stop and pro during time skip, but I think the issue is like Diavolo, specifically Diavolo and intent, and like even in the case of Valentine, I think as long as Valentine is doing like, I'm just gonna go get this guy because I don't get it or whatever the heck, which makes like sense essentially, like I'm gonna get this guy to get Toru, and even if they don't merge, just having their own Toru works pretty good for them. But if it's like, I'm going to intend to kill Toru and then he tries to do something, that'll probably mess it up within his...
Dude, even part 7 kind of clears him.
Yeah, I think for the most, specifically on intent for me, yeah.
Well, Act 3 is that same principle of
Act 3 is specific,
so,
no, that's, yeah,
so
that,
Act
that
3
was just,
could definitely do something to him.
But yeah.
You'd have to get into there's win cons for 7 to beat Toru, but they're kind of funny.
I think it just comes down to anything that like breaks the logic of real life. So it's like even Valentine grabbing a Toru from another like dimension, like that would have to break Wonder Review, because he's like disrupting this natural flow of logic. It's like there's nothing logical about bringing another Toru from another universe.
It depends. So the thing I always think about that, I do agree with you. In a universe where like stand rules are illogical and they don't make sense, yes, I agree with the whole time stop and like funny Valentine stuff. But like under what Araki said in those interviews and how it just works, and how he just says it's like, it's the end all be all. I think this is like the strongest thing, and depending on how you interpret the interpretations of how like calamity and logic work with Wonder Review, and it may be being that thing at least partially, it gets really funky, at least in my opinion. I see how you two see it, but like just how I view it, it's like how it manipulates how people act, how people's act, and then like how it sometimes can influence other people's abilities. I think it will end up leading to shenanigans in which some of those win cons might be hard to achieve.
Well, just think about what's defeated it in its own story. Like Caleb brought up the idea of like, oh, even thinking like I'm going to use time stop and kill Toru, like that would activate a calamity. But what about Josuke when he like Mamazuki Rai's sitting there telling him, Josuke, your soap bubbles don't exist anywhere. You have the power to defeat him. None of that triggered like this crazy calamity. And then Josuke pointing his finger at him and being like, okay, I'm going to shoot the soap bubble that doesn't exist anywhere and hit Toru. None of that intent created like a massive calamity. So like apply that same logic to like Act 3 or time stop or time skip. Like it just wins.
I think it also, you have to also clarify too, is like Gappy also went in there with like the big brain knowledge of like, I'm not pursuing you. So it's just like, I'm just shooting the bubble in your direction, but I'm not.
He had the full intent of hitting him there. Like the whole not pursuing was just him waiting in the hospital. But like when he's pointing it and shooting it, it, like that's 100% intent.
See, I had a whole like Discord like type chat with like him and like Metas and Jobber about this, and it's like
it gets funny.
It's literally
like
funny. Like I am, because here's the thing. It's like you have to like clear. It's essentially like a clear-minded approach. Like it's like I am pointing my finger in this direction. I am shooting the bubble. That's it.
But
like
you are not the target.
but that's the weird part. Like it's just like I'm not saying I'm intending to shoot this guy. I'm just shooting my finger and shooting this bubble in this direction. Whatever happens.
And I also, if I'm remembering the panels correctly, he did also get hit with the bugs, or I don't know what they were called. The long ass. Yeah, he was being affected by them and stuff, but he wasn't like killed instantly, which might be the karmic retribution kicking in, because it's like, what does Gappy have that's like evil? He's barely existed for like a couple.
We could
months.
just talk ourselves in a circle here, where it's like, well, even Diavolo existing is intent for him to. So maybe Diavolo, like as soon as he's born, is affected by Wonder of You, because he would eventually have the intent to kill him. It's like,
no,
well,
he has his karmic, like in specific for the karma stuff. He is going to pay like off of that.
Yeah, Mamazuka's all like, it's the society. He affects all of society. So it's just, if you live into the society, Joker style, it might kick in. It's all phlegmatics and a whole bunch of like ifs and hypotheticals and stuff. So it's just it might depend. But I think it really realistically comes down to like these two in like a mid-bowl category of just like hypotheticals. Like definitely, I do believe that like Johnny Valentine and maybe Diavolo and the Part 3 crew definitely have win cons against them. But in my belief in how Wonder Review works and looking at specific like Iraqi statements, I still think they're number one on my list, but it would probably be an extremely interesting and hard fought battle. Gappy could play a factor in it too, but like I think Toru, at least even in like high ball and mid balling it, is like carrying like the team on this part. But like Johnny and Valentine are still like second here, possibly first for you two.
So
I would think so, right?
That's your final ranking.
I think if I were to do a full list, I'd go Gappy, Toru, Funny Valentine, them in they're in second, Part 3 in third, Diavolo in fourth, Giorno and Diavolo in fourth, then Joseph and Cars, then Pucci and Valentine, or Pucci and Jolene Valentine. I didn't think he'd fucking switch teams. And then I'd go Joseph, Kira, Jonathan, Dio. I think I did that tier list correctly. I can't breathe anymore. In this version of the list, in the different one, in highballing it, we can talk about it eventually. But what are you guys thinking then?
Bro, I'm writing this down right now to figure this out. I'm not gonna lie, because I just thought about.
I told you it's difficult. That's why I brought you to.
Like,
I'm only gonna give top 3, because like once you get down there, it's just for the birds, like whatever. Put them in order.
It's like actually a mess.
Number 1, base power, who's coming up on top out of all the parts. I think I'm giving it to Part 7, only based on the fact that I think Act 3 would be able to move in time stop. So we've seen that the infinite rotation can move in time stop. It was like very slow, but it's still active. It wouldn't like undo it. So the fact that Johnny can go inside his nail bullets and the hole itself can move, going off the assumption that could still happen in time stop, he has an advantage there. So 7, then the time stop boys, then Wonder of You, Part 8, because Calamity just beats Diavolo. It beats everyone else. So number 1 is 7, number 2 is the Part 3, number 3 is 8, and then Part 5, and then 6, 4, 1, whatever order. Let them have their own free.
I think all of our bottom is still the same in both lists. So what do you got, Caleb?
Shoot.
He's still thinking. He's still pondering.
This is rough, because dang, because I have I have 2 over 3, but then I have 3 over like
you're entering 4, the loop again, like
5,
last recording.
6, like so I guess it would have to be like
off the top of your dome right now. Go.
Top of the dome.
Don't think about it
now.
Top of the dome. Just think about it right now.
I'm gonna label my top 4. I'm gonna say which are in the top 4. As for ranking them, okay, hold on. 7, 8, 2, and 3 are in the top 4 for me. As for ranking it, I would have to, I think 7 and 8, I'll put the equal sign. But then 2 and 3, I'll put 2 over 3 because while even 3 takes care of majority of them, at least 2 beating 3 is good enough. So 7, 8, 2, 3. Oh wait, we're going with Whitesnake, right? Wait, hold on. Oh my god. Wait, we're using Whitesnake, Pucci specifically.
We're using Whitesnake, yeah. Whitesnake and Seamoon.
Because that means if it is Whitesnake, then after that I can put 6 over 2 also. Darn.
Caleb is like trying to figure out this math
look,
equation
783 is my top 3. That look, I'll just say that. They get off top.
Okay.
783 is in my top 3. The rest is, oh my god.
So with that being said, that's the current mid ball of the list. We didn't do this last time, but the last time we did this, I think what we should just do in general is explain why we all simultaneously chose why Johnny and Valentine just beat everybody else last time.
Yeah.
And I would just personally just say infinite rotation and like the light barrier plus infinite lives is quite literally the perfect resource management group out of all of them. It is just a problem. If they can't beat them, they just stalemate them. And just to cover the wonder of you wall, because if you can just defeat them, you can defeat anybody. It's just like Johnny has the potential to defeat Toru because it's infinite power. It should be able to do a lot more. You might be able to argue the phonetics between the Go Beyond bubble versus the Tusk Act 4 in this duo matchup. Solos, it's a bit different, but in the case of here, he should be able to defeat Toru. It's likely, but in combination with the light barrier, it's just like, oh, he's not going to be able to get touched or something like that.
It's just because it's
the clash between those abilities.
So
yeah, Spins is broken here.
So full power was being changed here is that we now have Made in Heaven, Ultimate Cars, Gold Experience Requiem, Love Train,
and Go Beyond.
And Go Beyond. And so if we're discussing
and Bites the Dust.
And Bites the Dust. That's what talking about. Yeah, in the earlier one, Cars he would just die within the hour. But
yeah,
the reason why we unanimously, or at least think we did, was that 7 was on the top is because Act 4 is the spin, so it's pretty much the same as Go Beyond in the sense that, like, you know, if we need to defeat Toru by going somewhere or using a power that doesn't exist, we literally saw Johnny do that when he entered Love Train's gap. The gap is also a space that doesn't exist anywhere. It's just this void in time and space, and Act 4 was just able to bust right in there, so it'd be able to just destroy Toru instantly. And then Act 4 moves in time stop. It probably moves in time skip as well. It'd probably be able to go past Giorno's Requiem. I mean, but even if it doesn't go past Giorno's Requiem, we still have the Holy Corpse. We still have Love Train.
Yeah,
so
it nulls them out. So it's just like, well, no one's gonna win.
Yeah.
So suck it,
just
loser.
Adding the Holy Corpse is like adding a whole nother character to that group, because like the Holy Corpse does so many things. Like it will activate Love Train, but like who knows what else it could do if you give it to Johnny or you just let it exist by itself. Like it literally just manifests its own abilities. It has its own stand. Maybe the Corpse Guardian will come out and defend them in some way. So
yeah,
it's just busted.
For the people that are wondering what about Made in Heaven here, the problem with them is what we determined is that Dio and Jotaro at full power here will probably end up in more likely than not most scenarios with full power like duo free-for-all is getting rid of him first and or him fighting Toru, and it's just like pebbled to death.
Like,
so it's just like,
even if you can speed up time so fast, they can stop it. Like, they just stop it. And them together,
focus on him.
That's a solid, like, almost 20 seconds of time stop. Part 3 Dio and Jotaro.
Yeah, and then like Valentine and Johnny just beat them just because of light barrier and infinite power and being able to move in time stop. They're just too good as a duo. Caleb, what did you say yesterday? I'm just kind of curious. You went off on a while there talking about them.
The idea is that since they're perfectly fine within Love Train and can come out anytime that they want to, oh my gosh, this is, I'm looking at all these. It's 7, I had 7,5, then 8 over 2 and all this. Yeah, they essentially had the ability, like, okay, even if we did have an issue with any of the people here, we can go grab one and then add them to the party and just be like, okay, so it's either that you're gonna go get involved over there and go beat them up, or
you're gonna die,
or like we're just gonna like figure it out all together. Like the idea is that they have way more resources than literally everybody else there, and they essentially win the war of attrition. Especially because say that D4C, like he wanted to go out there and like kind of get like, I don't know, like let's say hit like a little bit, they can still fall back, pop in, pop out, new Valentine altogether. But you also just have infinite rotation Johnny and stuff that was originally like a huge issue, like Cars and any of the time stop guys and everything like that, because we've seen what infinite rotation does during time stop. It just keeps going anyways. Like it went for a Diego.
They're just too good.
They just outright beat everybody else, and it was like really bad. And the reason why I had a 7 over 5 even with GER was purely because Diavolo essentially it's like 1.5. Like the team is now 1/1/2 instead of 2 and 2, because Valentine and Johnny can effectively be the team and win how they're supposed to. Meanwhile, Giorno would have to just be like doing hella legwork, and and if I had to put like a #1 spot on it, I'm gonna go for the team that still has like 2 of 2 essentially.
Yeah, they're just too good. They just have everything. They basically, to just summarize it for anybody that's just like confused in what we're all saying, they basically have an answer for literally everybody. Jonathan and Dio, instantly one shot just because of Johnny and Valentine. Joseph and Cars, same thing. Dio and Jotaro, basically the same thing. Joseph and Kira, basically the same thing. Dio, Valo, and Giorno gets a bit weird. You can start really power scaling it.
I'm thinking about this now, but how does it really beat GER? Like, it's good. They have like, I know I picked part 7 as well because I think the infinite rotation would beat GER, but like,
I don't think it does. No, I just don't think they beat GER. They can't. He literally can't even shoot. Like let's say if like you would have to worry about the bullet going.
The power is that you cannot reach reality.
Yeah, he never shot the bullet. He never shot the bullet. So if his whole thing is like, yo, Giorno, you're gonna get shot, it's like, you better take that to Jotaro or Dio or anyone else that's not me, because if that bullet's coming my way, you never even shot it. And he's like, oh dang, you're right. Okay, my bad. I'll go for somebody else.
So to use the really nerdy stuff that you can or cannot use, it's just like how Johnny's bullet should work is it should be able to beat causality, which is Giorno's ability. So it gets really weird there. My other answer to that versus is just stalemate, can't do anything, suck at GER, and then going on to 6, it's just like light barrier, Poochie can't do anything. Eventually the bullet will catch Poochie off guard, potentially Jolene doesn't do anything, and then Valentine and Johnny will probably end up having a tough fight against Gappy and Toru.
Realistically,
but they have an answer.
The infinite rotation outlasts Made in Heaven.
Technically, it should in theory. So like, yeah, they have an answer to literally everybody. So it's just like, they should win. Maybe even by default, I'd even argue. Like, they are just realistically that good. And even if the bubble were to transcend the light barrier, it realistically shouldn't do too much damage unless you're going to be one of those Go Beyond fans that say like the last bubble was completely different than the previous two because it was able to erase like a concept, or not the whole concept, but able to damage a concept. So unless we want to start arguing semiotics like that, 7 still probably ends up for the most part. So yeah, I don't really else.
Do they win or do they just not die?
They potentially both, depending on the part 5 thing. So it's just like either they win completely or they.
What about Ultimate Cars? We haven't thrown Ultimate Cars into any of these matchups.
well, Johnny can kill him with the bullet, infinite rotation to death.
Yeah, even if he's not like that, even if he's not dead, like let's say he's regenning, he's still like getting spiraled out of like infinitesimally. So it's just like he can't really function.
Yeah.
He's gonna try to regen, but it's just exactly. It just keeps going and going and going.
Yeah, I think that's what we ended up saying. And I think if I remember the discussion from yesterday, Cars would be able to eliminate most of the people here, but his problem would end up just becoming like Giorno again, Johnny and Valentine, and Gappy and Toru. And I think what we ended up saying is he probably gets at least wrecked by 7 and 8, and then like 5 eventually ends up becoming a stalemate again. I think that was our thing, right? If I remember correctly.
Something like that. Unless we said, what if Giorno created like a new life form foreign to Cars?
Oh, that's like right. The poison. That's right.
No, I thought about a lot, like literally last night because of that. And it's like, yeah, if he's allowed to just create something that essentially wasn't a thing at all, something as simple as like, I'm creating an antibody that robs
kills you.
That kills you.
Just kills you.
It just kills
That's
you.
what you're basically making. It kills the ultimate life
because we had like the nuclear take where it's like it would. That's a thing. He could create like an entire new biological thing that produces nuclear stuff. I didn't even look into that if like there was a thing that actually did that. But something as simple as like, oh, this is actually a toxin that like essentially freezes. It's removing your body heat and it's robbing you of your oxygen. Granted, at the same time, he does like photosynthesize too. Like he's like a freak of nature, so it's like I don't know.
It just numbs you. You can't use any of your cells or something like that.
It has to do something like that essentially. Like it has to be like this newfound, like he has to create like a mega disease. Like it would just be something we've never seen before.
If we really want to be stupid with it, because we never really saw the limits of just regular gold experience, just make another Ultimate Cars, and now it's just a 3v2, and it's just like, well, you're gonna fight him for like forever, so they just win by default.
I think GE definitely has a limit there. It can't create like complex life.
If it created a Cars, it'd be a husk of Cars. It wouldn't like. If it had to be like a person,
be like Chimera Cars.
It would be like
Chimera Cars would be crazy.
It'd be like a weird thing. Granted, no, I think if he was to get a hold of like literally anything, he'd probably be able to examine it to an extent. And it can't attack him, so he gets to examine it like a lot, and then he could probably produce something.
I don't know, something like that. So he eventually ends up stalemating with them, but then the other two have an answer. It'd be like Toru fucking sends cars into space again because of shenanigans. I don't know. And then like infinite death with the bullet. So yeah.
Thought, oh my
and then like
the freaking nuclear thing we just like, oh, nuclear biological animal. That's Godzilla. That's freaking that's
Jordo making Godzilla would be wild. I don't think that's possible. That would be hilarious.
Created Godzilla from scratch. Like it's like that's ridiculous.
Yeah, it would be pretty wild. And Pucci, for the most part, I'll touch on him a little bit, is like he would be able to, like, technically, if the scenarios were correct and Valentine was out of the light bearer trying to attack, Pucci could kill him. He then could kill 4 and 5. Not 4 and 5, 4 and 1. Part 3's group gets interesting because Pucci was able to tag part 6 Jotaro. So depending on how they combo attack with their like almost nearly 20-second time stop, Pucci could do some damage. But yet again, GR, Johnny, and like Toru end up being a problem for him. Well, he would end up lasting pretty long.
What about this with Pucci? So I think we can assume is if Made in Heaven reaches its completion, the singularity, like he wins. He resets everything and all these abilities are just like erased out of existence and creates a new universe. Couldn't Pucci just get to the point where he's doing Made in Heaven, once it starts, just run really far away, like miles away, so like Time Stop Boys can't reach him, Gold Experience Requiem can't reach him, Infinite Rotation can't reach. He just runs away until
he lives by winning.
Yeah, until Made in Heaven completes, and then everyone just like eventually evaporates.
Yeah, I didn't know he took a Joseph's roll out of that one.
Yeah, he would essentially all he has to do is get away, because if he gets away and they kill each other, at least the majority of them, then they won't carry over into the next universe, so they'll just be gone anyways.
Pucci could play a long game here like Cars does. He could be pretty funky about it.
He could just dip out.
Ah, damn it! But this is like the idea of like this is like, you know, the infinite room of no time and space. So it's like, we would have to create essentially like this.
They're in a desert. They're in the desert.
Yeah. It would have to be like a real place essentially. But
yeah,
they're just fighting in the Coliseum. All the rules apply. Fuck Paul. So yeah, Pucci could be interesting. He could end up like he could long term it and just hide away and then activate Made in Heaven. So then it's only like 3 teams he has to fight, and then he just slowly picks it off.
But
like
then
nobody
Kira
eventually
counters.
touches him.
His name is Yoshikage Kira.
No,
undoes
dude,
it.
I'm telling you, that's my game plan. That's my number. It won't work purely because Giorno's gonna revert it, and then he ruins their plan. But if he just tells everybody else, it works 100%. Like it's not gonna work the 7 guys. It's not gonna work on the 8 guy specifically, I guess, because of 10 or whatever. It's not gonna work on 5, but essentially, you know, 1, 3, 2, 4, you know, like he can go about. It's like, hey, no, oh wait, no, this would be specifically 4 to 6. Dang, no, so that means he's like, oh yeah, everybody, this is Yoshikage Kira, and it's like, yeah, it takes care of everyone that can hear it, but dang, it would keep on getting reset.
Yeah,
dang.
Part 4 just doesn't do anything, brother. They have bubbles.
That's unfair.
I'm sorry, Josuke is just with a bad partner. Everybody else has like a goat on their team.
Yeah, everyone else is.
What if we continue on the mindset of that running away is just an option? If they get Bites the dust off, and then Kira just ditches Josuke and just leaves, he wins.
He just gets
because eventually they're all gonna die.
That is true, but then it just ends up becoming part 4 versus 7. It's like, well, are you gonna get in the wall, or are we just gonna neutral here?
But I guess it could never get off because Gold Experience would just be like, no, I choose for that not to happen.
Or unless like other shenanigans happen, unless somehow Giorno dies somehow, but it's very unlikely.
Look, if it's a stalemate, look, one thing too we have to think about, if it's a stalemate between 7 and 5 and they have to stay there forever, look, Valentine can keep on getting new Valentines. He can eat, he can do whatever. Giorno is gonna age. They can't fix that, you know.
That is true.
That's going to happen.
It would literally just create a black hole. If Made in Heaven, Bites the Dust, GER all went off at the same time, it would just explode. Every atom in the universe would implode on itself. There'd be no life. That's the Big Bang, and then that would start a whole new cycle.
Another battle.
10,
so another.
That's what the Big Bang was. It was Made in Heaven versus Gold Experience Requiem.
I think that's about it, boys. Right?
Yeah, I definitely think so.
All we say. Yeah, this video was slightly longer than our first one, but yeah, for the most part,
we talked about a whole extra topic, so technically it's like shorter. You know,
I feel like our last video was like 90% talking about Ultimate Cars.
It really was. But just to summarize, it's just basically he'd fight everybody. everybody, but then it'd just be like answer Tuss Act 4. We'll just simplify it, but he was definitely just a wall there for a while, and then Dio and Jotaro were too. But yeah, for the most part, yeah, this is the list. Lowballing it, 7 or 8 wins. Highballing it, 7 or 8 wins again. Or
8's nowhere close, man.
Look, I'm
8
just
is like
saying-
such in the middle.
Look, I'm just saying,
Yeah,
before,
well, at least in my
before
opinion.
everybody here, like before us as JoJo people and stuff, look, there was no one on YouTube bigging up Ultimate Cars this much. We are the exception. I'm just saying, like that's exactly how this panned out, bro.
It really did. I will put our original lists up because we do have them, so I'll show up the low ball and then like the high ball of the list. But for the most part, they're kind of similar. At least when it comes to the top tiers, the middle gets interesting. But yeah, I think this kind of answers the list. So thank you r/Stardust Crusaders, and who is it? Who is it? Low Bookkeeper. Interesting name for the video topic. I think everybody should enjoy this. I think this is a good one. This is like a really good discussion and a really good topic because there is a lot of shenanigans going on in this list, and I don't think I could have ever personally answered it because there's a lot of smaller details. Hey, look at Caleb, for example. Man went into a loop. He couldn't answer. Final pieces are done?
Yeah, I said Space Ripper Stingy Eyes won.
Yeah, real. Yeah.
Flux Sword clears.
Flux Sword clears. Yo.
Flux Sword clears,
yo,
baby.
If you
Let's
skip to the end
go.
of
It's
the
the
video,
sword
yo,
of
part
luck.
1
Luck and pluck.
Part 1, baby.
Yo, part 4, get washed, bro.
Washed, cooked, easily done. Well, with that all being said, thank you for joining me, boys. Like, comment, share, subscribe, follow me on Twitter, stay hydrated, follow all of us on Twitter, stay hydrated. I'll see you in the next ones, ladies and gentlemen. Deuces.
Peace.
Godspeed.